Having covered the life of Hollis Mason in Minutemen, Before Watchmen's Nite Owl tie-in focuses upon the formative years of Dan Drayberg, the second person to carry the Nite Owl identity. It's just unfortunate that it has to happen in such an average comic book. Straczynski, who I applauded for his knowledge of Watchmen in his Dr. Manhattan book, makes some key errors in his depiction of Hollis Mason's retirement. According to Moore's original and Cook's Minutemen book, Dan wrote to Hollis asking permission to use the Nite Owl moniker and applied his inheritance to building gadgets and equipment. But Nite Owl contradicts this established story by showing the original Nite Owl training his successor before handing the mantle over to him. In this version, Mason himself is a brilliant engineer and gadget-wielding hero, which is difficult to square with the canonical version who insists his only asset is a good right hook. What's worse is the fact that Hollis Mason's inclusion exists solely to tease the final twist in Darwin Cook's Minutemen comic book, with a subplot that hints at a major revelation, but never actually reveals what it is to the reader, a jarring decision that only makes sense when reading the event as a whole, and one which reeks of the very worst tie-in practices. Straczynski does better with Dan's origin, which is grounded in a tale of domestic abuse and sexual politics that fits nicely within the canon, though Dan's fascination with Nite Owl is generic, to say the least. But in this, Straczynski succeeds at supplying a reason for Dan's noted sexual anxiety, at least before it is subsequently dealt with in the course of the tie-in. And this is true of the book as a whole. For everything done correctly, there is a baffling backward step that undoes it. The story has a strong focus on Rorschach, likely because of Nite Owl's inability to carry a book by himself, but presumably in an attempt to depict the vigilante's formative years, he is decidedly off colour. One scene sees him attacking a sex worker, Nite Owl's new ally, apparently for no other reason than emotional instability. Later in the book, we are offered a kind of Year One story for Rorschach, which seems to make little sense given that his identity appears to be already fully established. While it is unclear exactly when the story takes place in the continuity, the villain of the story is far more heinous than the villain that drove Rorschach to murder in the original Watchmen. So if this is a younger Rorschach, then that story is contradicted, and if it is an older version, then his emotional problems are head-scratchingly out of character. As for Nite Owl's new ally, the Twilight Lady, which the book goes to pains to show as a reference lifted from the original Watchmen comic, she actually serves as an interesting retrospective commentary on 60s sexual politics, and is a fitting foil for Dan with her titillating dialogue and sexualized costume. However, it is impossible to believe her pining for Dan as a romantic partner, and altogether her reason for disappearing at the story's conclusion is flimsy to the point of parody, the proffered reason being unable to afford falling in love. Ugh. Andy Kubert's art here is serviceably messy, though messy in that severely precise modern way that is actually highly choreographed and inevitably has none of the character of the pre-digital styles from which it developed. Errant scrawl and exaggerated outlines are the name of the game here, and that's fine, but the unending grittiness means there is little respite for other colours, and the book never produces any truly memorable imagery. As to the book's layouts, echoes of the DNA of Watchmen are still present, though no new formatting innovation is offered to replace what has been removed, and the result is overwhelming blandness. Ultimately, Nite Owl's tie-in manages to feel more substantial than most of its counterpart tie-ins, but as in Dr. Manhattan, Straczynski has cheated with the rules of continuity in order to create space for plot development. However, this is far less forgivable here, where it only serves to allow for a retread of established plot beats, like Rorschach's blooding or Dan's impotence. While I didn't hate Nite Owl, this is certainly the first of the tie-ins that felt like it had basically nothing to say, overlong even at just 4 issues and unwilling to observe the basic rules of the canon. If only I had known how much worse things would get.